Hey everybody, Greg Poole here at BowJunkie, BowJunkieMedia.com. It's time for a bonus podcast here. Perfect. So, all right. Um, First of all, thank you all for listening to the Bodie Turner podcast yesterday. That podcast is doing very well, rightfully so. Bodie's the man. Um, that shoot off was incredible. Everything about it was spectacular. We're going to get into the shoot off. We're going to get into the inside outs. We're going to get into all that. But this podcast is just me because don't want to, get anybody else involved that might catch any hard feelings about this. But this topic is the 2025 Vegas shoot. Um, I made one video. Um, I posted on my personal page there from the event, and yeah, just so let's just get started off with this. It is amazing to me the similarities and the whining, the incessant archery whinery that is exactly the same as when we left the Riv. I mean, it's like not Groundhog Day. It's like deja vu. So many of you people just whining. I mean, like stuck pigs, and some of you weren't even there, which I think is funny in and of itself. But the amount of whining and bitching and complaining that people are doing now is just so similar to when we left the Riv. The only problem is there was no social media when we left the Riv, so um, I guess it didn't really matter. Everyone just complained to complain, but so let's address that part first. The complaints of people when we left the Riv and went to the South Point were the exact same. Oh, it's expensive, and it's this and it's that, and oh, we got to stay here or whatever. And yeah, I stayed at the Circus and walked across the street with my bow to the Riv and all that kind of stuff. And but here's the point. That Vegas ain't this fucking Vegas. The days of 99-cent breakfasts in Vegas, those don't exist anymore. The days of super cheap all those super cheap hotels, that shit's all getting tore down. They've built multi-billion dollar facilities in their places and they don't do shit cheap. They have transitioned Vegas from the 99-cent steak and 99-cent breakfast to what we have today. And so, I mean, even the South Point wasn't super cheap. It was cheaper, but it wasn't super cheap. Um, and one Uber ride down to the strip um, covered, made up for all the lost money in food. And yes, I will admit the South Point was lacking in some food because they didn't have enough restaurants for all of us, but we still managed. Another thing for the record, we didn't leave on our own accord. So don't think that Bruce and Brittany and them were like, oh, we're done with the South Point, we're out. No, that's not how it went. And so, first of all, kudos to Brittany and Bruce and the whole team for actually finding us somewhere to shoot because here's another inconvenient truth. Casinos hate us, archers. We as a collective, um, not all of us, but it's we, because when we show up, gambling revenue goes down, complaints go up, whining goes through the roof, all of it. And casinos pay attention to all that. So I am going to be curious to see what happens when Caesars runs the numbers from this last weekend. But we're not dealing with the same Vegas anymore. We're not even dealing with the same America anymore. Like, be real, people. Um, the thing that has made Vegas what the Super Bowl of archery is that it's a destination event. People come to Vegas, they shoot their arrows, and they go do Vegas shit. So what's the problem? Like, you know, like I said in my little video, if you go to Vegas and um, stayed in the South Point and ate Steak and Shake all day, yeah, it's probably a little bit of a financial shock and probably a culture shock to you. But for the other people that make it a destination, a quasi vacation, it's really no different. So if you came to Vegas to experience Vegas, what's your complaint? Now you don't have to take Ubers down to the strip. Now you don't have to do any of that. You're already there like we were before, even though the Riv was kind of down on the end. The point is, um, we're back on the strip, and I can tell you starting years ago at the South Point, people were talking about how cool it would be to be down on the strip. And there really is no pleasing everybody. I'm just going to tell you right now. I mean, perhaps if Elon Musk gets involved and places us in the MGM Grand Hall and covers half of the expenses, so you folks can pay $99 a night for rooms and $14.99 for meals, then you might be happy, but you probably wouldn't be. You complain about the color of the carpet or the lighting or the sound, or you'd complain about something. It's what we do. It's what archers do. And so I want you to pay attention to something. We only have 3 events, 3 large indoor events: Vegas, Indoor Nationals, and the Classic, Lancaster. All of those have to be held in giant buildings for a good reason. It's not outdoors. It's not this. It's not that. Those aren't cheap. Do you folks remember when folks were packed like sardines into Lancasters the first several years? Do you remember when they went to the Spooky Nook and the additional costs for that and how things had to be adjusted? And I mean, you can go to Lancasters and shoot one day and be done. Could you imagine coming to Vegas and shooting one day and being done? So you have to understand, these large buildings aren't free. You want a premier location, but you don't want premier pricing. That's the archery way. But unfortunately, that's just not reality. And so, that is something that Bruce and Brittany and the Vegas/NFAA crew will have to adapt to. They'll have to listen to it. They'll have to hear it. Now, granted, in this video podcast thing, I'm going to have some criticism of the event. But it's more constructive criticism and observation. But I also know some things that happened right before the event that a lot of people don't, that hopefully will shed some light on, one, the difficulty of putting on an event this size, and when things are thrown at you last minute by the fire marshal, by security at the hotel, because job briefings might not have been done adequately, so they thought your bow case was an assault weapon, or some of these other things that happened that they had to change on the fly. Now, if they didn't get the website updated or the schedule updated fast enough for some people, I understand. And we're going to get into a lot of that. But the first thing I wanted to address was the fact that folks complain so much. Do you go to ASAs? Why do you think those are held in the kind of towns they are? Because they can be. Because they can be. So cost isn't a thing. For the thousands of you that love coming to Redding, we don't hear anyone complain about a 2-hour drive from the airport. We don't hear anybody complain about the cost of hotels on Hilltop. We don't hear it. It's like, it's so selective. And I think we love Redding, so that's just part of it. So no one complains about it. But when it comes to the NFAA and Vegas, I don't know if it's Bruce's availability. I don't know if it's Bruce's personality. Bruce is a character. Look, I love the guy, but there are times that I could literally wrap my hands around his neck. Don't, because we're friends and I love the guy, but man, he's successful for a reason. And what he's done with the NFAA in Vegas is because of his personality, not in spite of it. So we've had some knockdown dragouts, FUs and thises and thatses, and we're still cruising. You want to know why? Because we're friends and both of our hearts are in the right direction. So if he gets emotional or whatever, I don't care. what he's trying to do is incredible. I was around the NFAA when Mary Helen was there. I've watched Brittany come up this whole time, and Brittany is a rock star. Bruce would be screwed without Brittany. Let's just put it that way. And so for some reason, the NFAA, maybe it's because they have Yankton, so they're able to have those events at very little to no cost, and so they can keep costs down. Perhaps it's the fact that the Reading is a designated shoot; they don't have to pay to put it on. The straight arrow bow hunters spend a fortune putting that thing on, and so, you know, I don't know what it is, but for some reason, people just want to tee off on the NFAA in Vegas because they think it's a freebie, but it's not. Like, I don't think you folks understand the slippery slope that we put this particular organization on when we as a collective rail on them for things. Now, that doesn't mean you keep your mouth shut and bend over and take it like a man. That's not what I'm saying. You're more than welcome to voice your opinion. I do it plenty. I've literally asked Bruce, are you drunk? Plenty of times. Joking, of course, it's the middle of the day. But, voicing your concerns is one thing, but uneducated or uninformed concerns that you're not willing to ask a real question, that's a whole nother matter. And so that's kind of the reason for this podcast today. And so as it pertains to Vegas, if you can't handle the cost of the Paris or the Horseshoe, and you're complaining about $8 waters and $20 plus cheeseburgers, get Uber Eats. I did the math. I would have saved 35% on my food had I had Uber Eats deliver me food instead of eating 50 feet from the elevator. No, I want the convenience. I'm not there to experience Vegas for Vegas. I've did that plenty. It's whatever. But I'll pay $3 extra for a latte because it's 50 feet from the elevator. I'll pay more for a burger because it's right around the corner. I can go get that shit with no shoes on. But if you're that worried about it, either don't stay there, stay somewhere cheaper and Uber over, or get Uber Eats or do whatever. But coming to the facility and just doing what everybody else is doing, and the vast majority aren't complaining about, and then complaining about it, how much of that responsibility falls on you? I mean, that's like buying a car at one car lot and paying thousands of dollars more than the other because, well, no, that's on you. If you want to save that money, then save that money. Be proactive for your own bank account. Or like myself, it's once a year. I don't give a shit. It's once a year. I'm only in Vegas once a year. I don't go to Vegas any other times unless I'm driving through to go up north. So I'm really not that concerned about it. So when it comes to the hotels and the costs and stuff, man, if you don't like it, stay somewhere else or whatever. But lamenting on the internet erodes people who weren't there, erodes their confidence in the event, and quite frankly, plants seeds in their head that aren't applicable and sometimes not even true. There will be some things I'll talk about today that are true and could have been better. 100%. Yeah. Look, man, that thing out at the South Point was a well-oiled machine. You want to know why? Practice. Yes, Allen Iverson, we talking about practice. They did it so many times in the same spot with the same people in the same buildings with the same everything and the same unions. Yeah, easy peasy Japanesey. Any little roadblock or hurdle that came up during the South Point events was easy to deal with because there was so much familiarity. Now they go to a new venue, a way bigger entity, Caesars, who owns I don't know the real number. It's 10 or 12 or 14 or some ridiculous number of entities in a row down there on the strip. And they've never had archery there before. So you have all new decorators. Decorators are the people that the union folks that put everything up. You have new union people running the docks. It's not like South Point. You can't be like, yo, Mitch, my dog, hook me up, homie. Mitch was there, but he doesn't run that for the union. So they were not familiar with our archery stuff. And so it's a whole new process, not just a new location. It's a whole new process because you're dealing with an entirely new group of people. New people from Caesars, new people from security, new bellhops. I pulled up because I drove. I'm only 4 hours. I pulled up, jumped out, took out my bow case, SKB, by the way, bow in the case, quiver outside the case with arrows, my bag, and a couple boxes. And they're like, and I say at the Paris, and they're like, well, we can't take that case. And I said, well, why? At first, they're like, it's too heavy. And I said, you haven't even lifted it. How's it too heavy? You haven't even touched it. Oh, well, well, and then they just got down to it. Well, it's a firearms case, so we're going to have to put it in lockup. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? So my fault, your fault, no one's fault. And this is not something the NFAA should have to do. But apparently there wasn't a decent enough job briefing. So the first few people that showed up with bow cases, they locked that shit up in the security room because they thought they were firearms cases of some kind. And Bruce had to get involved and Bruce had to straighten that shit out. So by the time the rest of us showed up, so I just put my bow case back in the car and my quiver and wheeled it up myself after parking. So those are things we never had to worry about at the South Point because one, it's not on the strip. And number two, they're used to horses and cows and freaking that kind of stuff. So it was easy for them. So as far as the hotel goes, it's a hotel. The rooms were fine. I mean, what do you want me to say? I wasn't in no honeymoon suite. The rooms were totally acceptable. There was a shit ton more food. There ain't no doubt. You can even walk outside and walk a block or two down the strip and get tons more food. So Bruce was not BSing when he said there is more food than you could ever possibly ever want. He's right. Did I have sushi in the Paris like I did in the South Point? No. Why? Because we all have our limits and boundaries, and maybe their sushi was that much better than out at the South Point, but I wasn't going to pay that money to find out. So I ate other places. Worked out fine. And so as far as the Paris and the Horseshoe go, yeah, it was good. I mean, the hotel was fine. The rooms were fine. Housekeeping was fine. I don't know if I should say this out loud, but there was very little wait at the elevators in the Paris versus the Horseshoe that I walked by long lines every day. So keep staying in the Horseshoe, everybody. I appreciate it. But yeah, so the Paris hotel, Paris elevators were easy. Another thing I need to mention is for those of you that are like, I see people on the internet are like, well, they need to change the event. They need to change the location. I've already said it. These casinos don't want archers there. We whine more, we complain more, we gamble less. So they see a drop in revenue for gambling when we're there. Now, I'm hoping, for instance, I talked to somebody that just for shits and giggles drove out to the South Point this last weekend. And they told me, they're like, I had to wait 20 minutes to gamble because all the tables were full. It was way better when Archery was there. And I'm like, repeat that to yourself slowly. Repeat that to yourself slowly. And then think about that for a minute. So when Archery was there, you could just walk up and gamble. The tables were fine. Archery's not there, and you have to wait 20-something minutes to gamble. If I need to keep explaining that to you, you should. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, so as far as the facilities go for the hotel, the food, all of that, it was good. Way more food. Loved that part. It is on the strip, right across from the Bellagio. You could literally look out the front windows, the front doors of the Paris, and watch the water go off at the Bellagio. It's pretty fucking cool. We are legitimately on the Las Vegas Strip. That's pretty wild. That's pretty wild because back in the Riv days, I mean, it was cool to walk down and see a stain on the carpet and be like, that could literally be Frank Sinatra's throw up. I mean, the carpet was that old. I'm just saying. And so I liked, I had no problem with it. And if price is your only unit of measure, stay somewhere else, get your Uber Eats. I brought gallons of water from home for the room. So, you know, there was a CVS right around the corner. Probably not as cheap as a CVS on your corner at home, but I got a couple gallons of water. I brought them with me and then took them up to the room and saved a bunch of money. But so from the facility standpoint, as a hotel, casino, I don't gamble, go figure. And I don't drink, times two. So I'm a double downer when it comes to gambling revenue for the casino, but I eat a lot. So I make up for it. My miles per gallon sucks. So I eat a lot. So they're getting their money out of me. It's just in food. And so, and coffee. And so from a Paris horseshoe casino, food, hotel standpoint, absolutely. It was dope. It's in the middle of everything. Loved it. Like, no problem with it. Literally 7.9. 7.9. You want to get me above your 8.5 to 9 range for that type of a thing, and it needs to be spectacular. And I wasn't there for spectacular. I was there for an archery event. So managing expectations, 7.9. It's a good rating for me when it comes to that kind of thing. I went to ASAs for years, and there was never any of those towns or hotels that I stay in that were above a 2.5. Some of them still had police tape and bloody handprints in the bathroom. Not kidding. So anyway, there goes that. Now let's talk about the shoot itself as the proximity in the location. Yeah, you had to walk more. The amateur were in a humongous hall, so right at the edge of the Paris, going through the little circular thing that takes you to the horseshoe. So on the Paris side was the massive amateur hall. This thing was huge. Lighting, not so great. I don't know if they didn't turn on all the light bulbs or whatever, but it ain't no Yankton. I'll put it that way. The amateur hall was dark, no question. But it was huge. It was huge. There was a 24-hour practice over there. It was a little bit small. I will say the practice was a little bit small. But it had bow storage over there. It was fine. It was less than I would say a 3 to 4 minute. It was a 3-minute walk from the amateur hall through the little breezeway. You turn right and go down to the event center, event arena or area or whatever of the horseshoe. There was practice, but instead of going right towards the event where the pros and the booths were, you would go left down to the end of the horseshoe, go up some escalators, and there was 2 practice ranges there. I believe that was VIP. I don't really remember. I only went there once. Should have went there the last day because I sucked the last day because I didn't warm up. My own fault. Anyway, that wasn't a terrible walk either. So going down to the actual where the booths and the pros per se shot. Yeah, it was a little crowded. The booths were not all together. I will give some constructive criticism at the end of this. But the booths being split up and the booths location to me probably wasn't the best. But what are you going to do? Like, it's the first time. You don't know until you know. And so props to them for even getting her done. And so that part wasn't terrible. The one thing that I would have liked is more food down by where the booths in the event was. They had a little booth type thing in there. You could buy sandwiches and some basic stuff, but it would have been cool to have some more food closer, but it wasn't terrible. You could go out and walk down the way and get a pizza or whatever. Wasn't bad. So the lighting in the main shooting area targets, I think like 1 through 35. I could be wrong on that number. 1 through 30, 35. Lighting in there was pretty good. The day before it was kind of shitty, but they hadn't turned on all the lights. So when they turned on all the lights, it was pretty dope. Lighting in the other side, which had the other half of the booths, and then the bales were against these walls. So you shot each direction. Um, Little thing to say there. That's not how it was supposed to be. All of those targets were supposed to be along that wall. So the booths were here and everyone shot that way. However, apparently the fire chief showed up in some time. I was there the day before, and I just happened to be there the night doing a little, just walking around, perusing around, putting my eyeballs on everything like I do because I'm weird. And they were actually in the midst of that. They hadn't even put up anything. So apparently the fire marshal came in. This is unconfirmed. I've not talked to anybody about this, but from the scuttlebutt I heard in the moment, the fire chief came in and said, nope, to something. So they actually lost over 30 bales. So they had to make them go each direction. They couldn't go along this long wall. So they lost about 30 bales. So think about this. And I'm going to leave Bruce out of this one because it's Brittany. If you're Brittany and you lose 30 bales or so, whatever it was, the night before the official practice day, so this was Tuesday night, you got to reconstruct everything. You got to move those shooters elsewhere. You got to either create a new line or you have to do something to fit in all these people. So that kind of sucks because they had went there and measured everything and Brittany had a strategy. And then the fire marshal comes in and goes, pow. All of a sudden you're down 30 bales or so. You got to find somewhere for those people. You can't just email those people and be like, sorry about your luck. I mean, that's 120 people, 4 per bale. So that's food for thought. If you were in that room and you're like, this is booty hole. Well, it's because that's not how it's supposed to be. So props to them for adjusting, making that happen. So overall, as far as the layout of the event, and number one, I'm just going to say this right now. What we got last weekend for the event, for space, etc., was better than the alternative. The alternative was not having a Vegas shoot. Keep that in mind. While you're whining, while you're complaining about your personal desires and wants and needs, think about the fact that staying at the South Point wasn't an option. And they managed to find something. Not only did they manage to find something, they managed to get a 3-year contract with Caesars that isn't, this is what I've heard, isn't location specific. Meaning, as previously stated, Caesars owns, I don't know, 9 or 12 or 14, some shit, all those properties. They own a shit tons of them. So if we do good, who's to say we even have to stay in the same place? That's going to be up to Caesars. So I'm sure Bruce and Brittany are reconciling all their information and figuring out how many holes they had to replace in the walls and stuff. But if they liked us and they didn't see a drop in revenue for gambling or things, if they liked having us there, not only could we still be there, maybe they give us more halls. Because when I walked down that amateur thing, there's more room there. There's other rooms there that we weren't in. So who's to say that if we did good this time and Caesars wasn't flooded with stupid archers complaining about $8 water, maybe they promote us. Maybe they promote us to actual Caesars because they got giant rooms. Maybe they do. Maybe they put us into a place where all of that shit can fit in one room like we used to fit in Louisville. That was indoor nationals, of course, but you get the point. I don't know that for a fact, but I know for a fact Caesars has that capacity. So now what? I don't think we are stuck in the exact same situation we all just experienced. And I don't think it was that damn horrible anyway. Yeah, we were spread out. Yeah, there was some things that needed to be, there's some adjustments that need to be made, some learning experiences, the fire marshal, the job briefing with bellhops and security about bows. So let's talk about bow condoms or the bags. Yeah, I don't give a shit about that. Everyone's like, this is so stupid of the Vegas shit. Oh, yo, you think Bruce calling Brittany Solananana? You think the ones that broke the streak during coronavirus and had the Rushmore Rumble in Yankton, the first event in a while, you think they wanted you to put a bow condom on your bags to make everybody feel warm and fuzzy? You think Bruce and Brittany did that? Are you out of your mind? That was Caesars. We're new to them. They don't have any idea. Can't even blame them. And yes, the bags over the bows is just as stupid as face masks during coronavirus. It's about as dumb and it's about as effective. But that's not the point. The point is it's Caesar's property. They have risk assessment people. They have attorneys. They have all kinds of things. And if they want us putting bow condoms on, I don't give a shit. I saw people walking around without them and no one said anything, but the majority of people were using them. I don't care. You think after a year or two of no incidents and no issues, they're going to make us keep doing that? Like, come on, man. This is a learning curve. They're learning us just as much as it took us to learn where to walk. Because it wasn't just go up the escalators and everything's there. Well, except for walking down by the big giant horse in the South Point to go up to that practice range. So not everything was together there either. So I don't care about the bow condoms. Was it irritating? Oh yeah, a little, but I don't care. I literally just folded it over my bow and I don't care. I did have one stolen and then I found another one underneath the chair and I took it. So it fit the same. Go figure. So anyway, the bow bags. Hey man, look, it is what it is. That's what Caesars wanted. That's what Caesars gets. Simple. And so if we do good, I will be very excited to see how they will promote us. If they will promote us, I have a hard time believing that they won't promote us if we did good. And by promote us, I mean give us more rooms or move us to another facility that they own. Because the contract's with Caesars, and they own the Paris and the Horseshoe. So they can do whatever they want. With that being said, if we get promoted, does the shoot off still take place in the Planet Hollywood Live Theater? I have no clue. No idea. I don't know. And I am going to get to that event, that scenario as well. So from a standpoint of what we will call shooter convenience. The rating for the shooter convenience at this year's Vegas is probably going to be I'm going to put it at about a 6.8. About a 6.8. I'm going to put the shooter convenience. And here's why. One, yes, we had to walk a little ways. Well, I timed it. It took me the same amount of time to walk to the front of South Point, get my coffee at Starbucks, and walk all the way back to the event. Same time it took me. Took me the same time. The reason that South Point gets knocked down is because remember how long we had to wait for elevators at the South Point? The horseshoe line wasn't even that long. So 6.8 for the archer experience walking logistically, not talking about some other experiences. I'm just talking when you leave your hotel room, the experience of getting to and from your shooting place, the booths, etc. 6.8. Could be higher. South Point, in my opinion, was about a 7.3, 7.4. So not that far below it. Take Louisville when we were doing indoor nationals there. That was in your mid eights because once you walked over there, everything was there, but it was also a fraction of the people. I'm just saying that's kind of how my unit of measure goes. So 6.8 on the archers walking, shooting experience, for that part. Obviously the amateur hall could certainly use some better lighting, but Bruce can't necessarily do anything about that. So, from that aspect, yes. And so talking about the change of targets, losing those targets Tuesday night, on the schedule. So let's start kind of transitioning into some of the shooting stuff. Obviously, your big dog archers shot in the 1 through 30 or 35, whatever those bales were. Not super stoked with the seating. I'll just be honest with you. It was just all flat. And some of the shoot times, because they didn't have a whole arena full of targets for championship, they had to bust up some of those lines. So that part was what it was. There was one thing I did like, and I wasn't ready for it because I didn't read all the instructions and I didn't read all the emails. So just telling you, they flighted us on day 2. I'm not mad at that. Normally in Vegas, you shoot with the same group on day 1 and 2, and then they flight you on day 3. This year, they flighted us on day 2. I'm not mad at that. I like that. Not mad at that at all. Got no problem with that whatsoever. I thought that was well done. So definitely good there. They did have to put some folks, like I shot, I think 9:30 on the first day. And then I got out with my stuff, threw it in a booth, and I was running over to watch Bodie and them shoot while he shot at 9:30 as well. That kind of sucked, but there's nothing to know. What am I going to do? They don't have the room to have all of us old people shoot all at one time, and then have all of the big dogs and the women shoot the next line. So they had to mix some stuff up here because of bail counts. What am I supposed to say to that? Like, it is what it is. So little bit disappointing there, but nothing I'm going to really complain about. So there was a little bit of a scheduling thing on Saturday. In the schedule, they actually had the second, third, etc. places for women and some of the other classes scheduled to shoot at 1-ish after that line. That shoot off was supposed to take place in the horseshoe where they actually shot. Well, that was new to everybody. Now it was printed, it was emailed. Everybody got the communication. Not everybody checked it. I'm everybody. I'm not everybody. I'm everybody. I didn't check it. I didn't even know. Well, guess what? Some of the archers didn't know either. That caused some confusion. And then Bruce, rightfully so, made the executive decision. Well, fuck it. Then we won't shoot this off right now. We'll shoot it off before prime time tomorrow in the live theater. And I am going to get to that. I promise. So had to make an adjustment on the fly there. And look, here's the thing. Historically, meaning forever, Vegas would shoot off podium spots in the championship divisions in the big shoot off. They would. And so that's what everybody's conditioned to. So I can understand how archers would be like, well, tied for second, shooting off tomorrow at live theater and not even look at the schedule. Okay, I get it. So then they're not around for the 1 o'clock on Saturday thing. I can buy that. Still they didn't read the instructions, but I didn't either. But I wasn't in a shoot off because I suck. But the point is, that is something that people are conditioned to. And so it's reasonable for them to just presume the same protocol, but it wasn't. Bruce adjusted, that changed some other things. And so this is why you were seeing super early shooting times and super late shooting times. They had to adapt and they had to adjust to things. And that just is what it is. And so they made that adjustment. Things got over there, and it is what it is. I thought they did a good job adjusting. Was it spectacular? Did it suck that we had to make adjustments on the fly? Well, yeah, it would be great to be like South Point, where you can literally be like, oh, here's where this is, here's where that is, everything's good, yada, yada, yada. But it's not what happened. And so maybe we can facilitate some more communication for next year. Obviously, Bruce and Brittany are not new to this. And I promise you, I've not talked, but they are aware of some of the adjustments that need to be made for next year. They're not stupid at all. So if you're going to ditch the Vegas shoot because this first year in the South, see, literally had the same conversation way back when. If you're going to ditch the Vegas shoot because the Paris and the Horseshoe or shoot times or booth locations or whatever wasn't exactly to how you wanted it, well, that's sad. It's sad for the sport. And I mean, it's sad for you too, that, you know, your experience at the Super Bowl of archery is so fragile. Just is what it is. I remember shooting in the Riv, orange, yellow lighting, and the smell. So look, man, this is archery. We're trying to put on the best presentation we can, but we're just archery. We're not cornhole. We're not darts. We're not any of these sports. And I'll just leave that at that. I mean, that is what it is. One of the other things that I want to explain to you guys about Vegas is that, especially Vegas 2026. So I'm going to explain this to you, and if I have to write it in crayon, I will. The prime times for Vegas expenses, hotels, event centers, their show season, when things are the most expensive, is January 5th through March 1st. After March 1st, everything gets cheaper. If we could have Vegas in July, it'd be half the price or less. Because ain't nobody doing this kind of shit in Vegas in July. Probably because it's hotter than the doorknob to hell. But that's not the point. So the move to March 1, of all the years Vegas has been held, it's been held in March more than any other month. Maybe for that reason. But just keep that in mind. January 5th to March 1st, the most expensive times to do anything in Vegas. Period. So, I don't know. I didn't hear Bruce say anything about Vegas 2026. Did I miss it? I don't know. I didn't hear it. I was there early. I stayed in that some bitchin' live theater for 6 hours. Ride or die, son. Got to support all my women's and my youths. We'll get into that. But don't give a shit about the Indoor World Series. But anyway, congratulations, Nico Wiener. And Nico Girard, dog, pound it out, son. Anyway, I would go so far as to call Bruce Cole retarded if he moves Vegas back into February. Riri. Bruce would be a Riri for doing that. He's not going to do that. So if I had to guess, I would say that Vegas is going to be the second or third week in March. One of those. It'll be there-ish there. Maybe first week, depending on what Caesar says. I don't know. But it's going to be in March. Second, third weekend. Because it's after March. It's after March 1st, so the rates go down. I haven't read the Caesars contract with Vegas Shoot. I never will. But Bruce is not new to this. He understands these nuances. And so I'm 100% confident it's going to happen in March. Don't know, don't care when. We'll all be there anyway. So, but that's something that people need to understand is there's a window in Vegas where it's more expensive. When was Vegas happening at the South Point? But it's not on the Strip. Paying attention? So many moving parts here. And so that part, I think, is very, very important that you guys understand that there's a peak season in Vegas. And once you get into March, after the 1st, the rates go down. No different than going to fill up your truck with gas the week before spring break. Why does it get more expensive? Supply and demand. There's more demand, so they charge more. Vegas is no different. And like I said earlier, the old Vegas is not the new Vegas. The new Vegas is not 99-cent steaks and shit. Those days are over. So everybody comes to Vegas for a destination, treat it as such. And don't freak out if you got to pay a little bit more. It just is what it is. And so that is, that is one of the things that I observed throughout the event was, and I've been to a lot of these, and with Bow Junkie, logos right here. I know a few things because I've seen a few things. And so watching how Bruce and Brittany adapted, and look, if you went up to Bruce and you spit some dumb shit at him and he snapped at you, dude, in the moment, do you blame him? It blows me away some of the shit I see people walk up and say to Bruce and Brittany during an event. It's wild to me. But anyway, so from a overall standpoint, when it comes to scheduling, 10 out of 10. There's really nothing else we can do. Giving Bruce and Brittany a 10 out of 10. Keep that bitch in March. Keep costs down as best you can. But until we have a benefactor like Elon, it's just going to be what it's going to be. And so, there is one other thing as far as the room nights go. And I know sometimes you can get a cheaper rate elsewhere or whatever. I choose, and it was not very much more, but I choose to book in the Vegas or NFAA room blocks simply because those are pre-negotiated. And I want the event to get all the credit for those room nights they can. Why do you think World Archery and some of these other events are extending their shoots to 9 freaking days room nights? So anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. But as far as scheduling goes, I'm going to give them a 10 out of 10. I think moving it to March was smart. Even though it was more expensive for us this time, overall, if they had moved us to the same place in February, it would have been even more. So, I did set a record. I was in Planet Hollywood before the shoot off, and I walked and found Starbucks and got me a 20-ounce white chocolate mocha, half sweet with an extra shot. And I paid the most I've ever paid for a cup of coffee. It's paid $16. 20-ounce white chocolate mocha, extra shot was freaking 16 and some change or something. Whatever. That was a bit of sticker shock, but you know what? Fuck it. So it is what it is. But so that's the timing, that's the framing of that. So let's talk a little bit about numbers, not dollar numbers, but shooter numbers. So I checked the NCO right before I left to go over there on Tuesday, and there was about 3,800 and some change, over 3,800 pre-registered. They had several hundred show up on the spot and register, which, how do you plan for that? How does Brittany place 200 and some change extra shooters that show up on the spot she wasn't prepared for? Think about that. So total numbers for the Vegas shoot was 4,015. Now, going to address some numberology here from some other large indoor shoots that say big numbers and that kind of stuff. So here's how this works. Those weren't the total number of shooters that were in Vegas at this event this weekend. There was 5 other events taking place. There was the Nevada NASP. There was the National Western S3DA. There was the Nevada State JOAD. There was the USA National Finals, and there was the World Archery Indoor Finals. And not all of those are cross registrations. If you've been to Reading, I don't need to explain to you that you can shoot the trail shoot, but not shoot the NFAA. So anyway, those shooters equaled 1,538 additional. So in the buildings, I say buildings because it's multiple, not everybody shot at the same time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 5,550 participatory archers showed up in Vegas this last weekend to shoot the Vegas shoot and then these other 5 other ancillary shoots in addition to. 5,550 is a good number. That's a good number. It's a pretty stout number. Yeah, I'd love to see 5,000 just shoot Vegas. We're 1,000 away. And I think that with some tidying up of the event, some tidying up of the shoot down, some tidying up of the marketing and the promotion. I digress. I think they can get there. Could we get there in the exact same rooms and the exact same places we just shot in this last weekend? No, we couldn't. We'd have to add a day. But I don't think we are going to be in those same rooms, those same places. I think we're going to get some extra space. But I would like to see Vegas get to 5,000 actual Vegas, which would probably put us more like 7,000 total humans in the building. And so when you see other events claim certain numbers, just remember they are including non-main event participants, whether it's youth programs or whatever it is. I think Bruce should include them from the get-go. They came to Vegas for his event to shoot ancillary events within his event. I think he should include them all, but that's Bruce's decision, not mine. Period. And so, but that's a good number. Congratulations to them. I think that we could definitely, though, bump those numbers up. I think that our sport in general is lacking a lot of promotion. And by promotion, I don't mean fucking infomercials and paid shit like that. And I'm not talking about companies. I'm talking about organizations and media. We don't have a promoter out there rah-rahing with any excitement our activity. And certainly not our organizations. And I've been laying low in the cut for a couple years, and I'm just not sure at this point. But anyway, we need it. We need somebody out there on a giant platform rah-rahing our shit. Period. Rah-rahing our activity, promoting our activity, promoting our shoots, promoting our organizations in a way that makes them appealing to people that aren't there, that makes them appealing to people that have never seen this before. And I'm going to say this as bluntly as I'm not going to say it as bluntly as I'm capable of, but I'm going to say it. Putting the fucking shoot off behind a paywall is bullshit. End of statement. Additional statement. Putting the Vegas shoot behind a paywall hurts archery, does not expose our sport to any new people, and is a money grab. I said what I said. Anyway, moving on. So from that aspect, I've just seen some lacking in that, whether it's a personality thing, a media thing, I don't know, but we don't have a promoter out there. We just don't have it. We have nobody out there on a large platform that is I'm about to get excited, a true fan of our sport, that loves our sport, that knows the people that are in it, asks the right questions, for God's sake, and is able to actually extract from some of these archers interesting content and conversations. Because let's be honest, our archers are not trained in media. And we as a collective, archers are nerds. I'm sorry. It's true. I'm a giant nerd. I'm just a bigger nerd than everybody else. But I'm still a nerd. I'm just a nerd for archery. So putting a camera in a lot of these people's faces, you can audibly hear their butthole slam shut. It's not what they're built for. Now, you have people that excel at it. Bodie's good at it. Jesse was good at it. Danny, Levi, Chan. Yes. We have had people that are Paige. We have people that are spectacular at it. But on the whole, you throw a camera and a microphone on a lot of people's faces, they're Ricky Bobby. They're like, I don't know what to do with my hands. And so engaging in them is a skill set. And promoting our sport and our activity when there's not an event is as well. And so speaking of that, I wanted to talk about this a little bit, and I hope I don't hurt Bruce's feel. I don't care if I hurt Bruce's feelings, but the point is, I would say this to his face, anyone. So don't think I'm talking shit behind Bruce's back. I would say this to his face. I appreciate the level of production that they are trying to get to for archery. It's my position that quality of content is more important than quality of production. And here's why. Cornhole, darts, curling, badminton, pool. Not this one, that one. They have gained massive popularity because people bond and people attach themselves to the activity. They don't bond themselves to the production of it. So no matter how good of a show you put on, and no matter how much money you spend on production, if you're not focusing on building people's relationship to the activity, you are pissing up a rope and you are burning $100 bills. Just is what it is. So I'm not saying to go find a bunch of old school flip phones and record all this in the worst video ever. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is having the producer from the Raiders that produced the Super Bowl come produce a Vegas shoot off and make all kinds of screw ups and not even really do much other than some pyro is a huge waste of money. Having the level of, because here's the thing, like you see all these giant cameras. When you watch something on Facebook, it automatically downsizes it anyway. You don't get 4K. If you don't have the right YouTube type of channel or subscription, you don't get to watch it in 4K either. That goes for other folks in archery media as well. Why are we spending all of this money on these luckily, renting these massive professional sports cameras when that's not going to bring in new archers? It's not going to make people bond to our activity. Yeah, it looks cool, but it's not. How cool does it look really, though? How cool does it look when you have commentators that aren't even in the room and you can hear kids playing in the background and hear them yawning and shit? For the Super Bowl of archery, I could go on about that, but I'm not going to. In order to imagine Joe Rogan commentating a UFC from home. Can you imagine that? Now, that doesn't go for other countries that get the video piped in and they have someone commentating in their native language. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the English version of the live feed. Wait, there was no real live feed. But if you're going to have people commentating this, they got to be in the room. They got to feel the crowd. They got to feel the excitement. They have to be able to see. Okay. Sidebar. I don't even know how long this is going. I don't really care. Did the amount of personality that we saw out of Chris Perkins, Matthias Fullerton, and Bodie Turner was spectacular, and it's exactly what our sport needs. Nico Girard getting the fist bump. I'm going to get into that. Bodie talked about it. Nico Girard's a super good dude. Very nice kid, man. I love that kid. He's from France. I don't expect him to be quite yet that gregarious or whatever. But the personality that we saw from Chris Perkins, Matthias, and Bodie during that shoot off was exactly what we need. And if you're commentating and you're not in the room and that's not what the camera's on, you don't see it. So how are you going to describe or adequately promote and build up amazing gestures of emotion and personality in our sport if you're not looking at it? No, you're not. And I don't know if that's a cost-cutting measure or just pure laziness. Not talking about the commentators, I'm talking about the production. Oh, and for the record, Bruce and Brittany and the NFAA and Vegas shoot have nothing to do with that. That's all World Archery. The production schedule. I'll get into that. All that's World Archery. So you don't care enough about the Vegas shoot to have the commentators sitting in the room so they can experience what everybody else is experiencing. Do you think we would get the viral moments from John, Joe Rogan, and Daniel Cormier if they were commentating from home? How would they go, oh, and touch each other? And, oh, are they going to do that from home? Yeah. So we're faking the funk with this production bullshit. No offense or offense. I don't really care. And archers are not speaking up about it. They're like, ooh, that looks neat. But it's not for the betterment of archery. It's burning $100 bills. It's not growing our sport. What we witness, and once again, folks, this is not Brittany and Bruce. They have nothing to do with that production. So don't think any of these comments have anything to do with the Vegas shoot or Bruce or Brittany, because it doesn't. It's World Archery. They sure pull out all the stops for their Indoor World Series, which I could give no fucks about. I don't think the Indoor World Series brings a single benefit to the Vegas shoot at all. None. Yeah, it was cool to watch Nico Wiener. I love how excited he gets. And Nico Girard go out there and just pound it out. That was awesome to watch. Doesn't help Vegas. Doesn't help our Super Bowl. Doesn't. But, and we can talk about this overproduced product that is not putting the sport in the best light. Like, they mixed up Nico Girard and PJ Deloche's pictures in the introduction. How do you do that? They're both French. I guess that's close enough. Like, how do you do that? There were some other slip-ups in the heat of the moment. George Technichoff caught them. George Technichoff verbally made some corrections and asked the right questions. So props to George. I can't look. Bruce is out there drinking from a fire hose. If Bruce gets lost in the sauce on whether it's the first end for practice or the first end for score, yeah, I can give him a pass on that. The dude, I've been in that, not in that exact position, but it's a lot of pressure when you're out there. And so George caught it. George did good. So no problem with that. Look, if you get twisted because they shoot a close arrow and George calls it a liner or whatever, I'd rather him call it a liner than call it wrong. Oh, like Bodie's Inside Out. Yeah. So I got no problem. George is up there looking through a $4,000 spotting scope. Pretty sure if he says it's a liner, it's close enough to be considered a liner. And it's better for him as the commentator, the on-site commentator for the event people there, not the people watching. It's better for George to take the safe course and be like, 10-9 liner could go either way, or 10-9 liner could be a 10. That is the smart thing to say for George, rather than go 10 and then they come out and go 9, because then he's like, fuck. And then he's going to be more hesitant to say it in the future. So luckily, George has been doing this long enough. He understands those nuances. And that's really what it is it's a nuance on how to speak in those situations. And whether you like him, hate him, same goes for me, whether you like us or hate us, we do what we do. And George has the nuances of how to speak on those arrow calls proper. He pays attention to the event as it's unfolding. And if Bruce happens to say something that's not quite right, George corrects it or questions him so Bruce can correct it. That's the right thing to do. If you don't like it, or you don't like George, or you don't like it, tough shit, you get up there and do it. I'll bet you can't. So that is what it is. No, George and I are not best buddies. George and I don't go ride motorcycles together. George and I don't go on long walks on the beach or hang out when I go to Salt Lake City. But I respect what he does. So fair enough. And I'll also call him out if I have a question on something he does. And I would hope he'd do the same. But he did good during that. I got no problem with that whatsoever. Like I said, the overproduction of it is all for show, not for dough. None of that production is growing this sport. Putting it behind a paywall certainly doesn't. What sort of new person to archery is going to pay to watch a sport that they're not going to stumble upon it? They're not going to do any of that. This comment is my personal opinion, does not reflect the opinion or thought process of the Vegas Shoot, the NFAA, Bruce Cole, or Brittany Solonen. This is purely Greg Poole's opinion based on my own experiences, my own level of expertise, and my own observations. Bruce Cole has a serious fucking decision to make. Yeah. After what happened last year, and now after what happened this year, Bruce has a serious decision to make. Yeah. This world archery taking over the video of the shoot-off's not even on the internet yet. Bodie Turner called me today while on a hike and said, I still haven't been able to watch the video of my own shoot-off. Why? Because World Archery hasn't posted it yet. Oh, they're all over the Endo World Series like a fat kid on a cupcake. But the Vegas shoot-off that went 16 ends with 3 ends of inside out potential scoring and a 2-time winner with the highest production value Vegas has ever had, that video is not available yet. Does that seem normal to you guys at all? Like in the past, you could watch the live feed and then it's instantly up. So you could rewatch it the same night. Now here we are, Wednesday. Nothing. That seems weird to me. That seems very weird to me. Are you trying to tell me that the Indoor World Series Finals more important and bigger than the shoot-off in Vegas? Well, I think World Archery proved that's their mentality. And that's where I'm saying that Bruce and Brittany have some serious thinking to do. I don't know what they're thinking about it. I have no idea. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And this is 2 years in a row now that World Archery has fumbled the bag when it comes to the Vegas shoot-off. The capital T, capital H, capital E, most important shoot in our entire sport other than the Olympics. The Olympics are pretty important, but you get my point. This is the most important shoot our sport has besides the Olympics. And it's Wednesday and the winner still can't watch his own shoot-off. Think about that. Something's not right. I'm not going to hound Bruce Cole about it. I'm not even going to look, it is what it is. That's their thing to figure out. But all I can tell you is they need to do some thinking. They need to go up to Mount Rushmore, go to the res. They need to jump into a TP, get the smoke rolling. They need to get to sweat, and they need to get the sweat lodge going, and they need to get one with the archery spirits and figure out what the hell they're going to do, because this is not sustainable at all. If those of you that are hardcore watchers, well, look, here's another thing. There are so many scams for that Archery Plus subscription thing that giving your credit card and doing all this other bullshit, most of those were scams. I think I heard there was 12 to 15 fake Archery Pluses going on. Guess what? When I was live feeding that bitch, doing commentary, and had another crew doing edited content that we could then post by class, and it went out for free on Facebook and YouTube, nobody scammed you for that. Hashtag money grab. And now you have scammers. So this scenario has created a scenario where scammers can get after you guys. Well, what are we going to do about that? Because yes, World Archery creates that scenario where that's possible, but unfortunately that comes back on Bruce because it's his partnership and it's their event. So Bruce is the only one that can do anything about it. Just being honest. What are you guys going to do? Email World Archery? They don't give a shit about you or me or anyone. Bruce does, whether he says so or not, or whether he acts like it or not. I know he does. I've been working with that dude for 2 decades. I promise you he does. He reads more comments on the internet than you could even imagine. I don't, but Bruce does because he cares. And so there's some big decisions that have to take place there. And you know, none of us can do anything about it. I mean, what are we going to do? Tell Bruce it sucked? Well, okay. Well, what sucked? Because your opinion about things that sucked might not actually be the things that sucked. Because if there was 4,015 of us there, technically 5,500, but if there was 4,015 of us there, and if 50 of you say something sucked, and the other 3,965 say that it didn't suck, did it suck? Well, Bruce and Brittany still have to look at it because generally speaking, one person saying it sucks is not good, but someone's always going to say something sucks. And I'm very critical. I'm very critical of what I do. I'm very critical of what Bruce and Brittany do. I'm very critical of what the organization does. And I offer my constructive criticism because I've been around long enough and, you know, they generally are respecting what I say because I'm not coming in there with stupid shit. I had to pay $8 for water. Not complaining about that. So that is what it is. So keep in mind that if you didn't like anything about the production or the shoot off or the lack of availability, et cetera, it's not the Vegas shoot. It's not Brittany. It's not Bruce. They have no control over that. They didn't set the schedule for the Planet Hollywood Live. So when the 1 p.m. on Saturday thing happened with the women, and I am still going to get into that. When that happened and there was mass confusion because not everybody was there, it was like, what the hell? Bruce then had to say, hey, we have to do it tomorrow before the shoot off. Well, that's when World Archery said, well, we can run a session before the indoor World Series shoot off. And then we'll show that during the main shoot off. So those of us that care and are there, we go be diddly bopping over there about 12:30, get ready. And I have a video. I'm not going to post it. There was 52 people in the crowd and Casey Kaufhold comes out, wins the Vegas shoot in the women's recurve. No live feed, no nothing. Then the young man from California comes out in the championship young adult, wins that shoot off, back-to-back son. No interviews, no nothing on the spot. 50 people in the crowd. 50 is an exaggeration, maybe 100. It's a big auditorium. And then 11 women who shot 899. I'm going to get into this in a second. Come out to shoot off for second and third on the podium. Now, as previously stated, historically, all of those people would know that they're shooting off before the big shoot off of the open people. Well, this year they changed it up, wanted to do it on Saturday. There was a communication breakdown. My fault, your fault, everyone's fault. Doesn't really matter at this point. They changed it. That message didn't get received by everybody. So here we are. But they show up before, they film all this. And then before the open shoot off, they don't show the video of Paige and Ella taking second and third. They don't show the young man from California. They don't show Casey Kaufhold. They didn't. And look, like I said, Bruce and Brittany they're not controlling that production. They didn't have the World Archery didn't have those people standing by to bring them out and give them their flowers. Um, that's a proverbial term, folks. I don't mean like actual flowers. I mean like their props in front of 5,000 people. And that's what has happened historically. Last year in the South Point, Bruce will roll out a winner. Well, Grant Slushner would have been one of them that got brought out to get his flowers. You've seen it before from Bruce at the South Point. He brings out a winner that won outright so they can get their props in front of 5,000 people. Because if you think the podium is where they get their flowers from all the people, if there's 5,000 people in there, 27 seconds after Bodie Turner wins, 4,700 of them are gone. Just is what it is. It's not like we're going to break that down and give out awards in between classes, but bringing those people out to give them their flowers in front of the 5,000 people on the live feed is super important. And Bruce and them have done it in the past. So the fact that this year's schedule didn't allow for that, I'd like to have been in that conversation, but I wasn't. So that's what happened there. Bruce and Brittany have done that thing the right way, in my opinion, before, where they'll bring out the person and say, let's use Grant Slushner as an example. Before the open shoot off, they would say, we want to congratulate the 2025 championship senior open shooter, Grant Slushner. And he'll walk out, and everyone will, and woo, and throw shit at him. We don't do that yet, but we need to get there. I don't mean bad things, but maybe Bruce and Brittany need to hand out foam things that we can throw at the winners. That would be fun. Anyway, bring Grant out and have Bruce. And although Bruce should probably not be the one interviewing people. Bruce is an MC. He's not an interviewer. I think Bruce would even agree with that. But at this point, who the hell do they have? They don't really have anybody. So Bruce interviews people, and it's obvious Bruce knows that's not his gig, but who else are they going to get to do it? So bring Grant out and be like, let everybody cheer. Let him walk off. The 2025 recurve women's champion, Casey Kaufhold. Everybody, she comes out and woo, waves, and the live feed and 5,000 people, and she breaks out. Bring out the kid. Dude, it would literally take a couple minutes. That's what Bruce and Brittany have done in the past, and it's the respectful thing to do. But this year, there wasn't time in the schedule. The Indoor World Series finals apparently were, yeah. And then we went to the Open, and then we have what we have. So let's talk about, I am going to talk about the inside out shootout and all that kind of stuff. But I'm old enough to remember when you talked about a woman shooting really good, there was one at a time. Michelle Ragsdale, Mary Horn. And then we started transitioning into not so much indoors, but then a Jamie Van Atta crushed. And then an Erica Jones. And then, Paige came along. And I can tell you this right now. I can remember talking to Paige when she was getting harassed by people saying she's too good and she is going to make other women not want to shoot the women's class in the pro because she's too good. Y'all are idiots. You don't know how iron sharpens iron, playa. So hear about, and I can remember doing Bow Junkie 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And I was watching and I was pointing out, there's now 3 or 4 women that are absolute bangers out here. And then, holy shit, there's half a dozen women out here that they're 2025. This is unprecedented. 12 women, a dozen, a dubski, a dozen women shot 899 or better. Are you shitting me right now? That is, that is, well, that's fucking awesome, is what that is. It's amazing. It's the deepest the women's division's ever been. And World Archery didn't focus on that at all. They should have had a promo cut to play during the live feed promoting the fact that 12 women shot 899 or better. They didn't. They fumbled the bag again. So the next time World Archery tries to pitch any bullshit about equality or any of that kind of shit, bullshit. They ain't about it. They talk about it, but they ain't about it. So let's talk about those 12. Guess who wasn't in that 12? Lizelle, Alexa Ruiz. There was 2 or 3 more bangers that should have been in there that are more than capable, that win indoor events. So there was legitimately more like 15. There's like 15 women right now that can drop 900s. Yeah. And yet World Archery didn't cut a promo for that and do the rah women thing. Why is that? Well, think about that. How is that not good for the sport? How is that not good for women? How is that not good for women in archery? Now, if you want to talk about equality, I do have a relatively controversial opinion about pay. I think pay needs to be commensurate with market application. But that's not the point here. The point here is we had the most unprecedented performance by 12 women in the history of our sport, and they didn't cut a promo for it to play during the live feed. Nor did they do much with the young man that won back-to-back. So how much is this production helping the growth of the sport? How much is this production helping women in archery? How much is this production helping young archers that want to, really do well in the sport? When at the biggest stage in the world, other than the Olympics, they don't focus on it. They don't cut a promo for it. Oh, they'll cut promos all weekend of people walking by and going and smiling at cameras and shit. That's not a hype reel. That's not a promo. That's fluff. That's laziness. And trust me, I know a thing or two about making hype reels. Let me rephrase. I know a thing or two about asking August Peters to go make hype reels, but I understand what they should be. They didn't do any of that. That's a crime. That is terrible. And it's a disservice to those women. It's a disservice to every woman in the sport that when y'all finally, I don't want to say make it, but holy shit, ladies, 12 of you actually shot 899 or better. That needs attention. And I can't get all of you on the podcast, or I would, but I am going to have Grayson Fletcher, the winner, on the podcast. I'm talking to her dad tomorrow. But how does that not get talked about? I mean, is it ever going to happen again? I hope so. I hope there's 10 900s. Let's roll 10 900s in the women's class. Let's effing go. Why not? They can do it. If World Archery cares to promote it at all, that's a whole nother matter. Obviously not this year. Maybe they would have if it happened at the Indoor World Series, but and the young man, back to back. What happened to the future of our sport? Where's the future of our sport? Oh, wait. This production value doesn't have anything to do with the future of the sport or record amounts of women banging. That makes no sense to me. I don't understand that, but it is what it is. But I want to say congratulations. I should have printed out all their names. I'm sorry. I don't know every single name off the top of my head, so I'm not even going to name all of them. I won't even name obviously I already said Grayson, Paige, and Ella. I don't know all the other ones, but they deserve all the props in the world for making history. They made history, period. It's the greatest indoor performance in the women's pro class, women's championship class in the history of our sport. No promos. I'm salty about that. So anyway, so let's talk a little bit about the men's open shoot off. Obviously they had to run 2 lines. Some of you have heard the practice bails for the shoot off at Planet Hollywood Live Theater weren't exactly Vegas Super Bowl worthy. There were some bails out in the alley, and that's what they got to shoot. I don't know the scenario about that. I would hope in the future, now that they've experienced that Bruce and them will either put up a tent or put out something out there where they can actually put up targets and warm up properly for the Super Bowl. This is not a Super Bowl like the NFL. They don't get to come do all their practice in front of everybody on the field hours before. They did, however, give them some familiarization. So they shuttled over, and I didn't know about the shuttle till Bodie told me, but they shuttled everybody over hours before. I walked in when they were still doing that, like 12:30 or 12 or whatever. And they let them shoot for 4 or 5 ends up on stage in the lighting so they could get squared away. That's cool. That is totally cool. This is not chess or checkers. So there is a physical aspect to it. So I would have liked to see them maybe have a little higher quality practice range to warm up on and get ready. Once again, that's just another thing that Bruce and Brittany can learn from. I don't know how much they even had to do with that, to be honest. But that's something that they'll pay attention to, because if you know Vegas from ever, they have always made sure that the people that are shooting Vegas have somewhere to practice, real place to practice. This time, of course, that's what happened, but I have faith in Brittany and Bruce that they will straighten that out next year. So, congratulations, ladies, 12 of you. I'm blown away by it, and I congratulate all of you. And as someone who has facilitated a lot of media in this sport, I apologize on behalf of Archery Media for not giving you your flowers. That's all I can say about that. So let's get on to the men's shoot off. Obviously, because there was 30, dirty 30 for the record, I am in mental discussions with myself on a thought process to limit that. Whether this is just me, it's just me. Whether we cap the shoot off of 900s at 18 or so and 20 and then have the remaining 900s shoot to get into the shoot off. So basically the lucky dog would be the additional 900s. Just a thought. Not saying that's what Bruce is doing. I'm not even saying that's what he's entertaining. I'm just saying it's a thought, because we can't have 30 people in the shoot off every year. 25's a lot. It's too much. And I know you're saying, but that's how Vegas is. Yeah, it's how a lot of things were. But as we progress through this, don't even tell me, and I've seen some people say it, well, just count X's. Well, then there won't be a shoot off. Bodie shot 89 X's. He would have won outright. No, we absolutely need to protect the 900 shoot off. We just need to have some sort of a non-shooting playoff system where we can limit how many 900s get in by X count, and then have the remaining do a shoot off like the lucky dog to get in with the other 900s. That's just my idea. I'm not saying anybody's doing it. It's just a idea. But 30's a lot. 30's a lot. They had to run 2 lines. I did make a comment to Brady Ellison. One of my first things was, and I mentioned this with Bodie yesterday, was how weird it would be if you're on the top bail to come out after the first end of score and have to look at all the people's arrows on the bottom. So you're like, oh, like Bodie said, oh, out, out, out. They don't have to do that. They didn't have to do that previously, but they have to do it now. So that's a little weird, but whatever. So, as the shoot off starts and it gets going, I was like, well, I think we're going to end up with the usual suspects. We did. We ended up with, Nico Girard, no surprise there, but Nico, Bodie, Mike Slosher, Matthias, and Chris Perkins were the last five standing. And I didn't see any of them coming even close to missing an X. And I was like, holy shit. And I'm just going to be honest with you. What happened at the Rushmore Rumble? Not good for the sport. It's just not. 69 arrows. That's too long of a shoot off. You can't do that. It's not good for the sport. And I don't care what anyone says. It's not good if you're watching. It's not good if you're new to the sport and you're watching that. It's not good for a lot of things. So speaking of that, for anyone maybe new to this that was watching this shoot off, that's not normal. You need to understand that. That is the equivalent of Michael Jordan dunking from the free throw line. You can't do that. Although I can't either. But I can dunk, but not from the free throw line. And so that's not normal. And so when people see this, and this is a commentator issue, I'll just be honest with you, we need to let people know that are watching, that is the Michael Jordan from the free throw line dunk level of shooting. If that makes you excited and you run down to your archery shop and buy a bow, which I hope you do, you're not going to do that. You're probably not going to do that ever. And that's where we need to explain what's happening. We need to explain the level in which it's happening so that we can manage expectations of other people. Because all of us watching are like, holy shit, I could never do that. There was two pro shooters sitting behind me who I'm not going to name that literally said out loud, I could never win this if that's the way it goes because I don't have that many in a row in me. That's reality, folks. Shooting a 900 is one thing. Congratulations to all of those people. Doing what we saw happen with those last five people is another level altogether. And so if you know anybody that watches that or whatever, just make sure that people, there is no better, you can't shoot better than that. And that's not normal. It's not what people can expect when they go to their archery shop and buy a bow. It's not what happens. So other thing, the inside out potential was listed in the rules. That wasn't a surprise. That wasn't it was a shock, but it wasn't a surprise. It's been in the rules. Bruce has hinted about it after the Rushmore Rumble, because what happened at the Rushmore Rumble was we just can't have that. And so even the shooters agree. That was wild. Great accomplishment, but come on, man. We just can't do that. The Super Bowl going to 10 overtimes would never happen. So when Bruce started talking about that during the shoot off, I'll be honest with you, I hadn't read the rules. I didn't know it was in there. I had to turn around to the two pros behind me and be like, what the hell is Bruce doing? And they both go, oh, it's in the rules. And I was like, oh, well, then I'll shut up. Do I agree with how it was implemented? I'm glad it was implemented, and I'll explain to you why. So, like with the Rushmore Rumble, dude, when you get to 13, 14, 15 ends of shoot-offs and it's all X's, the momentum of the excitement starts to wane. The crowd kind of gets into a trance. The people at home are like, especially when you got dry as a popcorn fart commentary, but the excitement starts to dip. Well, Bruce is aware of that. Bruce has done enough of these that he can feel it. Well, guess what happened to the excitement when Bruce gave them 2 ends warning that they will be going to inside out scoring? Brr, whoop. Excitement shot back through the roof. I was over there like, holy shnikes. It put excitement right back into the game. So props to Bruce for doing that. I agree with that decision. I would have liked to have seen it laid out in concrete before. Like next year, I would suspect, I can't say this for certain. I don't know this. I've not asked Bruce. But I would suspect next year there's going to be a hard rule. After, I'm making this up, this is hyperbole. After 12 ends of X scoring, we will go to inside outs. It'll be a hard, fast rule. Like everybody will know when you get to 12 ends. Once again, I made that number up. That's not a real number. I just made it up. Sounds reasonable. When you get to 12 ends, we transition to inside out scoring. I'm with that. I am 100% with that. Here's a point. This guy's a legend. He's a GOAT. This is not to besmirch him in any kind of way. He is a very nice dude. Who dropped out when he gave the warning about going to inside outs? Mikey did. Now, did that get in Mikey's head? I don't know. Mikey was shooting 23s and he was railing. Like if they had went to inside outs the 5 ends before, Mikey was railing inside outs. So I can't say it got into Mikey's head at all. But from the outside looking in, or from the seat I was sitting in watching, when Bruce Cole gave that we're going to inside outs and a couple ends thing, Mikey dropped out. Maybe it didn't have anything to do with it. I'm not saying it did, but I'm not saying it didn't. Next time I see him, maybe I'll ask. I'll ask in Reading. I don't know. But it happened. And so if it happened, we can put some thought process into that fact. Then the other thing that and I didn't even think about this. The other thing that Bodie said last night was when Nico Girard first arrow out the gate, boop, inside out. Bodie gave him a fist bump and said congratulations because he thought he just won. Because every other time we go to inside outs, other than indoor nationals, but every time we go to inside outs on a Vegas face, it's 1 arrow closest to center, or it's just inside outs. So the fact that it's not 1 arrow inside out, it's still end for end inside out scoring. I love it. I absolutely love it. That is an advancement to our sport without changing the distance or the target. Bruce hit a home run on this one, folks. I know some of you purists don't like it. I'm a purist too, but we got to do something. And that's it. It's not going to affect. One caveat. I was rooting for the guy in the flannel shirt with the white visor a little bit. The guy on the far right, I don't know who he is. I don't know his name. But I was kind of rooting for him a little bit. I mean, he ended up having a misfire. He did something, which is fine. He shot a 900, but had he advanced, I might have personally started a Joe Dirt chant, because he just looked like he was like, wow, I just came to shoot 900. Oh, this is cool. Look around. Oh, this is awesome. He was just living life up there. There was some support for him for me. I was like, oh my God, if this guy could make it a ways, that would be epic. But anyway, he didn't, but great showing. And so as the inside outs go, the fact it's not 1 arrow totally makes it completely valid for me. 1 arrow inside out would have been a travesty. It wouldn't have did the sport justice, and it wouldn't have did the Vegas shoot justice. But what Bruce Cole did, leaving it end for end, inside out for inside out, nailed it. Some folks aren't going to like it. Obviously, Chris Perkins is not stoked about it right now. He's the only one that didn't miss an X at all. But I think for overall, for the betterment of the sport, this is the exact shoot off change we need. You know, we're not going to change the target. We're not going to change the distance. So this shoot off change is exactly what we need. Now, with that being said, I don't even know how long has this been going. I don't know. Whatever. Arrow changes. We saw Matthias. And so here's the thing. Of the 5, well, Mikey dropped out. So we'll just say of the 4, 2 of them were already shooting. Nico Girard was shooting 23s. Mikey was too, but he got out before the inside out. And then Matthias went to X10s. Now, massive props to Matthias. Win or lose, son. No risk, no reward, just like he said. I love that mentality. Love it. Didn't work out for him, but I love his mentality. And here's the thing. That's the Levi Morgan mentality. And you can have that mentality when you put yourself in a position to win so much, it doesn't affect you. If it's your first time ever in the position to win, you ain't doing that. But Matthias is a defending champion. He's always in a position to win, just like Levi. So it's real. It makes sense for him to be like, nah, dude, I'm going for it. All of it. Just like Levi has said, 1st or 5th. I don't care about the podium. Well, that's exactly what Matthias was thinking. This works out, I'm winning. But here's the thing about switching to X10s like that. Unless you change your rest and your sight, you're not necessarily going to be shooting the very best X10 tune you can get. Now, indoor nationals, we've seen people get away with it because it's the Vegas 10, way bigger. Well, you start trying to shoot inside out Vegas X's with not so perfectly tuned X10s, that's going to be a long road to hoe. And that's what Matthias saw. It's not like Matthias was shooting them out in the red. You're still hitting 10s. But in order to shoot inside outs with X10s, your tune has to be relatively proper. So with that being said, the next question is, will Bruce allow people to change arrows for the inside out? Yeah, I don't know. My opinion, I don't necessarily have an opinion right now. I don't mind at the NFAA Indoor Nationals because guys switch before the shoot off even starts. Are they going to, are guys going to change to X10s for the 10 or 12 ends of X scoring? Hell no. No way. That would be foolish. No, takes away any room for error. So, my thought process on it is, well, if you're in the NFL and you're playing on a certain kind of grass and the cleats on the bottom of your shoes aren't right, you can change those. If you're in NASCAR and your tires aren't quite right for the track, you can change those. If you're in baseball and you can change your bat. So I don't know if I care, to be honest with you. I've seen a lot of people say we need to restrict it to 23s. Well, that didn't affect Nico Girard. And it didn't affect Mikey. He missed one because he missed one. It's not going to affect Matthias, or if Perkins had his 23s, he would have been fine, and so would Bodie. So that's only going to affect mere mortals like me. It's not going to affect the best of the best. They're still going to rail. Stefan Hansen shot 88 or 87 X's with 23s. So don't fool yourself. Going to smaller arrows is not going to change the outcome of that. But will Bruce allow people to change arrows from when they go normal score? Once the shoot off starts, will he allow them to change arrows midstream? I don't know, man. I don't know. You'll probably need to address that before next year. I mean, I would think. I mean, maybe he doesn't, but if he's going to make a change to the Vegas shoot off, he probably needs to think downstream a bit at some of the other effects of it. And that just is what it is. So as far as the big arrows to small arrows, I don't know if I care, to be honest. Virtually, yes, football cannot change the football. If a pitcher doesn't like a baseball, he can get a new one. If a pitcher throws a pitch and a guy hits it to the shortstop and the shortstop throws him out at first, and that ball has a little scuff or a cut on it, the pitcher still gets to use it, which is a huge advantage. Ask Greg Maddux. So every sport has a certain level of adjustments within its game. What we need to decide is, are we going to try to be a sport that accommodates adjustments from our top level, or are we going to try to be a sport that dictates that they can't adjust on the fly within the competitive spirit? It's a tough question. And if the history of archery and archers is any indication, we'll fuck it up. We'll say, oh, they can't change arrows. Well, why? Your reasoning doesn't hold any water, and it's not substantiated by other sports. So what are we really trying to be? Now, I would definitely say you can't walk off stage and bring out another bow, because they've said there's no equipment failures. So you can't bring out another bow. But if you want to change arrows, what's the difference between a guy changing cleats or changing tires or changing all kinds of, every sport have, golfers, they can change their golf ball. So, I mean, what are we going to try to be? If we're going to try to be that rigid control, we're going to make you do this because that's what we think is right. Is it right? Is that within the best interest of the sport? Is that the true competitive nature of elite level athletics? Michael Jordan played a game in a pair of 25-year-old Jordan 1s. Yeah, it blistered up his feet, but could you imagine if the league was like, nope, can't wear old shoes? By the way, that's the same league that fined him $50,000 a game or so because his shoes had black on them, not white, when they first came out. What are we trying to be over here? And so that's how I look at it. So no, you can't change bows, but you think you want to change arrows and it's going to work out for you, go ahead. Bodie won with 27s, so bad start there. Bodie had 23s in his quiver. He did not shoot them. So what's that tell you? So anyway, lots to unpack there. As far as the production goes, I loved the big screen. I just wish somebody on the production team knew how to push those buttons to show us a super up close of the target when they were going arrow for arrow instead of, I don't care about, that's a giant screen. You can't do split screen and show the archer up close on one side and then a huge dot on the other so we can all see it impact. You can't do that. That's beyond your 2025 production capabilities. Asking for a friend. That would be cool. That would have been super cool because my dumbass got 2.5 hours from home on Tuesday and forgot my binoculars. So I was having to look with these eyeballs and they're not very good. So maybe there's a little bit of selfishness there, but if the big screen is going to be your mechanism to disseminate the activity to the 5,000 people in the crowd, you might want to disseminate the activity that they care about. And we want to see the archers shoot and their reaction. We're not talking when there's 30 of them up there or 20, or talking about when they go arrow for arrow. We want to see the archer from the waist up so we can see his shot and his reaction. And we want to immediately see the impact. I don't like it when they show the archer and it goes break. I hear the arrow hit and the screen flashes to the target. I'm like having an epileptic seizure over here. I made that part up, of course, but it's irritating to me. Put them both up there so we can see them in real time, because watching an arrow hit is more impactful for someone who's consuming the product than looking at it after it's hit. Just my opinion, but opinions are like assholes and nobody thinks theirs stinks. So here we are. But I think that's pretty much it for my Vegas 2025. Oh, constructive criticisms. I almost forgot. This will be Bruce Cole's favorite part. Although I doubt Bruce Cole made it this far. He probably fell asleep on his cool couch in his old Victorian badass home. But anyway, constructive criticism. Number one, I would like to see the vendor area where the amateurs are. Let me put this as subtly as I can and as gently as I can for my fellow shooters. Fuck pros. We don't buy a lot of things. We will go to the booths because that's where our relationships are. So we'll find the booths. Amateurs buy things. They're the ones with the wallets. At least they're the ones that open their wallets. And so traffic was down in the vendor area for obvious reasons. And so I would suggest, and look, if we go to a different place and it's all in one, even better. However, I'm talking about last weekend. If we have to do the same thing, I would want to see the vendors in the amateur area. Screw us pros. We don't, when it comes to the booths like that, we don't matter. We're going to go find them. We have to. Those are our relationships. Those are our other friends. We're going to go find them. So put the vendors by the amateurs. There's that. Another constructive criticism, and that's not even that huge of a deal, but for vendors, it's probably a big deal. Bleachers. I did mention this to Bruce Sunday night or Saturday night, one of the nights. But it was in the cigar bar and I'm deaf. So if you remember at the Riv, now once again, we got spoiled at the South Point, son. I mean, spoiled like month-old milk. Spoilt. We got spoilt with that arena. The elevated seating, we got spoilt. So at the Riv, they had bleachers, and you could come sit in the bleachers, elevated seating, and you could watch the top dogs shoot because they always put the top dogs in front of you. I mentioned that to Bruce. I'm like, yo, man, this flat seat chair seating for 8-10 rows and then people standing, that's whack. Rent bleachers, work with the facility. I don't know what it'll take. Talk to Caesar himself, whatever. Rent bleachers, get bleachers in there. If the booths stay there, back the booths up to the bleachers, and then people can sit in an elevated position and actually be able to watch the best shooters do what they do. Just some constructive criticism from me. One of the other things I would do is, and they've done this in the past, but they probably don't have a jerk like me there doing media to ask them to do this, is I would invert the top groups, meaning, so right now they had the top men way on the left. Now in the arena, it wasn't a big deal because there was seating all the way around. So this doesn't apply to the South Point. But they had the top pros way on the left, and then they went through however many groups and then blah, blah, blah. Make the top men's bail in the middle, going down to the left, and then just to the right of that, do the top women's bail and have their bail go down the other way. So for media, well, I'm not even media right now, but whatever. For media folks and for people watching, they can pay attention to more of the top shooters at one time. It's just a consumption thing. That to me would be a good idea. You know, other than that, putting a tent for a practice range at the shoot off venue would be cool. But other than that, constructive criticism wise, those are the only things that I have. And you want to know why? I have a lot of other things that I've said during this podcast or video that need to be worked on. But that's my point. Bruce and Brittany already understand that. So Bruce and Brittany are already going to address some of the things, the scheduling, losing 30 targets. How do you even deal with that? They're already going to address that stuff. Do you think Bruce and Brittany are stoked about that? Hell no. They're going to address that. So I don't need to even bring that up as constructive criticism. I just brought it up. But my constructive criticism would obviously be boosts in the amateur area, elevated seating of some kind, bleachers per se, to watch the best shooters, invert the group so that they can do that. And I mean, other than that, from a production standpoint, or a consumption, I should say, consumption of our activity standpoint, other than that, it was pretty good. I didn't read the memo. So the practice with the pros, which is just more of a meet the pros now, went exceptionally well. They did that in the amateur room, and there was tons of pros in there and hundreds of kids. I'm bummed I missed it. I didn't even know what was going on. And so for that, it is what it is. But yeah, so that's my constructive criticism. As far as some of the other stuff, I'm not worried about it. Bruce and Brittany will address it. This was the first time. And I know, and I was thinking the same thing for a hot minute, and everyone's like, well, they've ran events before. Why was this one having some of these problems? Because they weren't doing it with the South Point crew that they had worked with for a dozen years. So everything's new management, new security, new infrastructure, new everything. And in the South Point, once you crossed under the big overhang by the horse, you were technically in the arena. So they had they were free to do whatever they wanted down there for the most part. Well, that's not the case now. We are under a whole different governing body. So that's pretty much going to be, my observations and criticisms and critiques of the Vegas 2025 shoot. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. Did it run as smooth as any of the events at South Point? First year at South Point had some hiccups too. So don't get it twisted. But no, it was rougher than what we all became accustomed to at the South Point because of the normalcy, because of the repetitiveness. They got a system down, same people, same this, same that. So that part, I have confidence in Bruce and Brittany that they're going to do, they're going to adjust to those things. They have some big decisions to make when it comes to the marketing and production of the dissemination of their product. I don't envy Bruce and Brittany's position on that. But we'll have to wait and see. A year goes by pretty damn quick. Speaking of, and a lot of people message me like, well, why weren't you in Chicago? Well, because I had a lot of stuff going on with my life and work, and I just wasn't ready. So I didn't go. It didn't have anything to do with the fact it was in Chicago. Was I stoked about Chicago in February? Well, no. Did you ever go to internationals in Louisville when it was 20? It's cold back there. Now, with the indoor nationals thing, we know a vast majority of archers drive to indoor nationals. So is putting indoor nationals somewhere where parking is so expensive because it's limited? That's probably a tough decision. Other than that, I don't care about the cost of hotels and food. That just is what it is. It's literally 2 events a year, people. So I'm really not concerned about that part, but I'll be curious to see how that part matures. But, look, for the first time in a while, I'm actually excited to see what can happen with the Vegas shoot. I think what Bruce did with the inside outs is a great move. Just need to make a few refinements to it. No surprises. Would Chris Perkins have shot a 23? I don't know. Would he have had X10s ready? I don't know. But putting it in the rules as we can do this if we choose to, I get it. Had the shoot off been over in 9 or 10 ends, Bruce would have never got to it. Think about that. Had the shoot-off been over in 10 ends, Bruce would have never got the opportunity to bust out that inside-out rule. But now that we've seen it, I think we'll probably see him put some structure in place to make it consistent, make it known, and then obviously have to address the arrow thing either. So, you know, I guess all I can say is this was a whole new experience for everybody, including the folks at the NFAA. I think Bruce and Brittany did a great job, all things considered. Perfect? No, it's never perfect, but they still did great. All of the judges for the NFAA and Vegas that work all of those events, you guys did great. I mean, the amount of shit you guys got to put up with on a minute-to-minute basis out there judging arrows and enforcing all of that stuff is spectacular. So to the entire Vegas crew, I say to you, thank you. You guys did spectacular. You did everything that you could do under the circumstances. And I have no question that the circumstances moving forward will get better and better. If you have problems with this year's Vegas, I'm curious what they are. I'm also curious if after this long explanation, which I still don't know how long I've been talking, helps answer some of those, or at least mitigate some of those to where you might have some additional understanding to the time frames of what's expensive in Vegas from 1.5 to 3.1, or some of the other, are we stuck in this particular facility in these exact rooms for the next 3 years? I don't think we are. I don't know that. I haven't talked to Caesar. I haven't talked to anybody really for the most part, but I do know they own a bunch of property. I only saw 2 arrows in the wall. So one was on a bale next to us. So I will be curious to hear from Bruce and Brittany. I'll try to get Bruce and Brittany on a podcast here in the next month or two, let them regroup from this. I don't want to talk to them on a podcast right now. It was a different weekend. And so I'll give them some time to chill, get that done. There's an exciting announcement for our sport coming April 9th. So we'll see what happens with that. Not NFAA related. But then basically, I'll just keep in touch with Bruce and Brittany and see what their time frame is and what's going to happen. I mean, obviously they have their own things, but I would love to have them on the podcast when they have some news to break. So I'll definitely be back in Vegas next year. I'll shoot way better, I promise. But if you're on the fence about coming to Vegas, come to Vegas. It's Vegas. Like, everybody for the last 15 years has been like, Vegas wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't in Vegas. Well, then shut up and get there, because you're right. It wouldn't be Vegas if it wasn't in Vegas. So how do we get to say it wouldn't be Vegas if it wasn't in Vegas out of one side of our mouth, and then out of the other side of our mouth say, well, food and drink, a little expensive. Well, yeah, it's Vegas. It's a destination point. And this isn't Vegas from the old days. This is 2025 Vegas, and shit's different. So anyway, that's going to be it. I don't think I missed anything per se. Did I mention I don't give a shit about the World Archery Indoor Series finals? Did I mention that? Maybe. I could say it again if I need to. I don't think the World Archery Indoor Series brings any value to the Vegas shoot. I think it's the other way around. So anyway, if I upset anyone with that comment or any of the other ones, I guess email my agent. So that's going to be it, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We've got so many comments and stuff about Vegas. I felt like I just had to do this podcast video thing, and we'll just put it out there, and I'm happy to engage with anyone. You can comment on this. You can comment on my post when I share it or whatever. And if you guys have any other, if you guys have other comments or suggestions, we can talk about it. I'll do another one of these and talk about all of your guys' points if I didn't already address them. Yes, communication could have been better on both regards. I don't check all my emails except for shoot times. I didn't check the other 5 that I got because I sucked. It's probably why I missed Meet the Pros. But with so many things they had changing with fire marshals and all kinds of other stuff, I still think, and the scheduling of the women shooting off at 1 on Saturday because somebody said there was not time on Sunday to do it. Good job overriding that, Bruce, and forcing the issue. It sucks that the women and Casey Kaufhold and the young man didn't get to make prime time, but that was the right thing to do and the tasty way to do it. Now we just need to modify some things and put something else at the bottom of the list. But anyway, that's going to be it, everybody. Appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, I appreciate you guys more than you know. And so, with that being said, you guys know the drill. As always, we want to hear from you, not about you. And love, peace, and chicken grease.